This is why we sort of get out of the way of the dukkha, which is sort of the baseline, the infant base sort of like first jump off point when you're on the Taoist path is your emotions don't control you, you control your emotions. And people are like, whoa, what? I'm like, yeah, that's the first distortion. That's your expression of your humanness. And that I can teach you very quickly to put in the corner of the room, roll over, play dead, and be the true observer of what is going on, not a dialogue in something that is not refined enough for you to validate what it is. And so when you get to that, and the mastery happens real fast, people are like, how is it that I can literally be exposed to this sort of like training, and I don't really have a belief system. I'm John Smith, the janitor at McDonald's, yet being exposed to this, it starts with a visual ordered experience. You create a kinesthetic visceral response that is validated by you, which would start with the first side effect being, I feel like I had 5 pina coladas, a full body massage, and 8 days in the Bahamas. This is what takes place because this tuning fork is a register of your reality. This tuning fork is just basically your consciousness binding you to this 3D and giving you a recording of what it is that you're experiencing. And then we sort of get down to, okay, so what is it that we're experiencing? Well, the tuning fork makes it realized. Are you experiencing something external? In my professional opinion, having done this 30 years, absolutely 100%. There are an infinite amount of entities, spirits, energies. It's nonstop. And so what happens is you create the calling, you create the calling, and then it finds you. The universe doesn't have a moral compass. You want it, we'll give you more. Like out of that movie, Oliver Twist. You want more, boy? Can I have some more, please? Oh, yeah, we're going to give it to you right up, straight up in here. And it's like, hang on a second. This would then sort of start referring to a mirroring effect. And the mirroring effect of just that in and of itself is, even if we go down to neuroplasticity, we're starting to understand that, if you observe something, it can be realized by you. So now you have that tangible thread that you can unravel a whole heap of other things in your reality. And it's just about creating and sharpening tools that can make it more digestible. Now, your desire from a face value looking at your energetics has a lot to do with the emotional content that you have in the spleen channel. The spleen channel reveals itself. So what does that mean? There's a lot of anxiety, OCD behavior that presents itself. Hey, whoop-de-doo. That doesn't mean anything. It's an expression of your emotional state, whatever that means. But it translates into, I need more information. I got to find it. 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 And that is how you sort of represent the holy moly. And like that pit in your stomach going, what the, is he talking, how, what, yeah. It's just information. It's just sitting there. And what you do with it is up to you. So, I find a lot of people pursue information. It's important. And then as you put it, you go through a cycle. It's like, I get it. And then the honeymoon is over. I'm back to the good old grind. I'm back to the reality. And that's where I sort of show people, you master your emotions, then you don't get distracted by that. And sometimes that, in most cases, in my situation, if someone's in my path, that means that's a helpful tool. Does it necessarily mean it's something that they're going to use for a lifetime? Generally speaking, if you're like on the verge of something that is oppressive, depressive, and possessive, you're going to appreciate having a better filter, a sieve per se, something that can drain the shit out from whatever it is that you're passing through you as a tuning fork. So I do not, go through sort of situations where you need to get a palpable sort of handle on things. And that's just my perception. I generally speaking, if you're in the mystical path, I've I've come to this observation and realized that that's a pretty much people are looking for some type of answer of some degree. And when they find it, it either satisfies what's within them, or there's something else that's compelling them to go further. As long as they're expanding, in my opinion, not being right or wrong, but subjected to duality, if you want to perceive it that way, then you're going to want to expand. You're not going to want to contract. I mean, the contraction would be a regressive, sort of from a duality and negative based sort of realize. And I always use that as a red flag for anybody. If you're gravitating to something where your God is telling you to kill people, I would take a minute. I'd go, hang on a second. What? How about this dialogue where they're saying there is only one, and anyone else who doesn't believe in what you're saying, we need to wipe them out, or you need to get in conflict. It would be an indicator, in my opinion, possibly problematic. And if you're coming to me and you have this dialogue, I would say, hey, maybe we should take a closer look at this and how you're processing this. But generally speaking, someone with that dialogue wouldn't be on my path. They're not interested in hearing what I have to say, and that's completely okay too. But if someone's listening to our conversation and we're putting together and spitballing these different perceptions of reality, it resonates with somebody. It comes back to that feeling again. And so, I always tell people when they go, oh, the honeymoon is over. And I'm like, listen, I can give you the instant feeling the first time you ever laid on your eyes on your girlfriend, your honey, your wife, your whatever, and that lusting moment of realization that's visceral, that goes through your physical body. I can give you the signature of that, and you can resonate on that for the rest of eternity if you choose to. It's just tapping into that, because everything is energy, vibration, frequency, and then you resonate with it. And so that kind of like makes it very simplistic, and it gives you a more grounding perspective of reality. And maybe that's not what it means to the individual, but generally speaking, how I see it is, if someone comes to me and they're in this state and they've got these sort of chess pieces and they're looking at stuff, they want to make a sense of it, but expand. They're not attempting to contract or regress away from whatever it is. This intuitive understanding has brought you to this point. Something is compelling you to discover, just like something compels you to go. And that's where you come back to, well, is it me? Well, what's going on? Something's compelling me to either do something that is low watt or high watt. What is it for you? What is low watt or high watt within your duality? And then that comes down to the subjective. What does love mean to you right now? So, I mean, we can go down these rabbit holes, and they're beautiful. I think they're beautiful because, once again, I'll refer back to when you dismiss someone else's belief system, you dismiss your own. And so an even bigger one from one of my teachers, the Jade Emperor, all thoughts of your mind are not yours. Whoa, shit, I've got an identity. I like chocolate and Netflix, and I've got a good-looking beard. And if that's not my thought, then what the is this? What is going on here? And so you look in the mirror and you play identity politics with yourself. And you believe you are of this flesh and blood, right? So you're deep within the flesh and blood representation of who you think you are. Your identity is summed up within what reflects to you from this mirror image. Yet the truth is, all thoughts of your mind are not yours. And here's another one that Lao Tzu loves to throw it. When you accept you are not of this body, what can harm you? Nothing.
Yep.
You go, whoa, holy crap, let me have another hit of the spiritual crack pipe, because that's where I go. I'm like, whoa, that's what I'm talking about. That's resonating with me, and it makes so much sense. And you can lay it down across a dozen different systems or belief systems that would correlate with that very understanding. And, and then the Jade Emperor will chime in and go, let the man who's never left his village, let him know he's seen the world. I'm like, oh, shit. It's all within me. Holy crap. My mind is like baboom. And, these are the epiphanies that we have. And it's like, Miguel and I were having this conversation earlier. It's like, oh, by the way, more, people need to really embrace the present moment. And you come to a certain point where you go, this present moment is the only thing, right? Which is like the center of the center of the center, which is that realization for a Taoist, it's between the breath in and the breath out, the Wu Ji, the stillness, the Tao, the mother of all things. And so you get that. And then I said, oh, yeah, highest purity always reminds me, one of my other teachers, he says, let the man know, let him know mortality is real. I'm like, oh, shit. And so this physical body, you're in this sort of like perplexing moment of, hang on, you just said I'm not of this body. And when I remember I said this to my mother decades ago, and she looked at me and went, I don't want to die. I said, that's not what we're not talking about death. You are eternal from conceptually you're eternal until otherwise noted. And then we go back to the will, the free will. Oh, that's an interesting one, my friend. And I always I attribute it to this. It's like free will is you don't have any until further notice. What? No. I mean, even if you took it from the construct of a hypnotist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, the understanding of consciousness is measured by that fact that, if you quote one of the dear friends, Bruce Lipton, you operate 5% consciously, 95% unconsciously all day long. That's if we were to measure consciousness, which it can't be measured. But hey, what the heck? Let's throw a stone at that. And then, you look at that timeline and go, hey, your belief system is molded within the development of your brain of the first 7 to 10 years of your life. And once you hit that record point of consciousness, you're solidifying it, you're fortifying it, and that becomes your reality. And then you have to jump over this hurdle that they like to call the critical faculty, the firewall of your mind. And so, we create more constructs, more separation, more detail. And I believe that there's this incredible experience of expansion. And also, in some ways, it's self-harm. It becomes a situation where you're just removing yourself so far from the path. And when you, just from your very wording and expression, it sort of gives me this idea that you get a taste, you get there, and then you're like, no, let me get back on the other side. What? You're there. Come on, man. You're there. No, I need more information. I need more. And this is this is kind of like important part of Gnosis, right? In of itself is discovery. Mysticism is discovery. And when it becomes whole, you'll know when you've had just enough. One bite is enough. And that's for your journey from your own admission hasn't yet to satisfy you as a whole. And that's completely perfection, as the Taoists would say. It's right here, right now. It's where you need to be. But if you were asking me problematic from a professional perspective of how it is, it's an expression of this need to be distracted. Because from a Taoist perspective, everything is a misdirection. Right from the first verse, the first incantation of the Tao Di Ching, which is what we call the magical register, the name you name is not the name. The way you walk is not the way. And it's like, what? And it really becomes so overpowering, and you go, hang on a second, what is it? Whoa, I got to take a minute. Oh man, because this is what people get into, and there's no right or wrong way. I always feel like if I'm in the path of somebody, I'm just here to give you a nudge, give you an experience that could validate your journey, and then expand on a consciousness that will make it palpable for you that you are validated, that you have this sense of, whole, this sense of being one with all things. Because, I mean, that's really the purpose of Taoism, is like yin and yang, two sides of a mountain. You go up the mountain, and your realization is that all things are one, realized as one. And so, it's an incredible realization. But I always go back to, okay, what bears fruit? What are you bearing fruit? Like, if I teach someone a method of mastering their emotions, they can literally go out the first time they start this training and they can go into a conflict, and they can literally pull their state back within seconds using an exercise. So hang on, whoa, that sounds like control. Well, it depends. Are you being manipulated by your emotions? And this, I'm just validating what you're saying, because now it comes back to, well, who's giving you the emotions? Where are they coming from? Well, why don't we start with using the sieve to filter out what it is? So at least there's sort of like an observer view to a certain degree of how, okay, well, I'm walking into a room and someone's like got an attitude, and I can sense that. And just the way they're looking at me, there's conflict. And you know what? That's not the golden rule from Lao Tzu. He always reminds us. He goes, when you don't make it about yourself, your life is perfect. I'm like, oh. And so you go in there, you engage with this rippling, energetic, emotional state, and you're like, I don't want that. But it's also, the guy's looking at me funny, and from where my liver fire is right now, I'm getting a little pissed. I'm feeding my personality. What's up? You want some of this? What is it? What? And then all of a sudden you're like, hang on a second, you're buying what they're selling. And now, is this an external thing, or is it an internal thing? Well, it's a bit of both now, isn't it? Part of the subject of duality. They threw out the lure into the water. They dumped the chum into the water, and sure enough, the great white appeared. And now you have this sort of like, oh shit, be careful what you wish for. But again, subject to a duality, right? And that's the construct. If you sort of look at it that way, you're always going to be on that line. What am I getting from this? Where am I going with that? And as you become more realized, and I always give people the Pepsi challenge of all things. And people are like, well, what's that? Accept and allow everything for 72 hours. And they're like, what? What could that mean? Jufu, what does that mean? I'm like, I'll give you an example. You finish this conversation with me, you go home, you open the door, and you go in your bedroom, and the neighbor's nailing your wife. You accept and allow that. You turn around, you go into the kitchen, and your kids took the last scoop of peanut butter from the jar. And you're hungry. You go outside, you go to get in your car, and you've got a flat tire. Now, the more and more you immerse yourself, because this is sort of like, in theory, the construct of laws of attraction, like attracts like, if you want to believe that, which I'm a little apprehensive when people start putting together the idea that there's a law of something. That would be more a construct of man, a realm of man's sort of perception of reality. But let's just say we believed in that, and it's like more of what it is. The universe doesn't have a moral compass. You're putting out the idea of something, and you get more. When you diffuse this stuff instantaneously and you accept it and allow it as a Taoist model, you get more. And all of a sudden, within 24 hours, I don't care who it is, they do the Pepsi challenge, the one I give them, the accept and allow challenge, and they're like, holy shit, my life is effortless. By the 48th hour, they're like, I don't know what charmed is, but shit just happens for me. Like, it's literally all the things that I ever desired are starting to materialize in my 3D reality. And I'm just accepting and allowing things. I'm not engaging in it. I'm just attempting to be the observer. And by the 72nd hour, they're like, I need drama. I just went and punched someone in the face. This is too easy. Right? It's too easy. I can't do it. I just don't want it. It's like I'm getting too much of a good thing. And this would be from someone that's still struggling with it. It'd be like, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. I guess if you're still there, but evidence would show you that the more you accept and allow, the more this incredible charmed reality, as I put it, when someone goes, how are you doing? Is everything okay? And I always like, it's good to be me. And so when you embody that, it's like it's like the way that you approached it and described it to the audience is so awesome, because it's necessary for people to get a deeper understanding. It's like, well, what about it? Is that me? Is that entity have a free will? What is going on? What are the layers to these things? And this is a processes that how you're perceiving it. And I don't receive information that way. Does it make it right or wrong? Absolutely not. And the more you realize there are a billion ways up the mountain, it's like, oh, but I can tell you this from methods and training that I teach people, I could give you a real harnessing, powerful moment of realization very quickly through alchemy that may assist you in how you perceive your reality. And once you get a handle on that, you can then pivot and redirect how you see things. But these methods are palpable, and these methods are handed down from generation to generation to give you insight. You want a handle on things. You don't want a runaway train. And that's where a lot of people sort of tend to start with, and that may be environmental, but it sparks from that one channel, and it sparks that way. And then you're sort of like, you stay in this resonance, this brain wave of beta, high beta, and then you dip into it. Maybe you go into theta, maybe you get a epiphany and you're in gamma, and you can stay in any of these states. It's just like the honeymoon ain't over. It's only over when you say it is. And you can replicate. And that's what's really important is to train yourself into being able to sit on that resonance as long as you want. And I think that's one of the masteries of Taoist internal alchemy practices, is you can sit there however long you want it to be, and you can start filtering your reality how you want to filter it. And it's either, that makes sense to me, doesn't make sense, but it always comes back to energy, frequency, vibration. And if you use that, I really believe it's a guiding tool, in my opinion, to helping people digest what it is they're looking for. That's a mouthful. I'm going to stop right now. It's your turn.
Well, there's a bunch of ways where I could take this.
Does that make any of it make sense to you at all?
Absolutely. On certain levels,
Yeah.
And there's nothing. Well, as you often say, and I completely agree, there's no right or wrong in this path. I think I've stopped, unless it's really useful to just to see it as a path. It's strange. There's kind of. I was debating internally if I should reveal that secret about my book, but there's a bunch of useful lies, even in the subtitle of the book, which is The Mystic's Path of Self-Knowledge. But you know what? We're going to get there. We're going to go there. So there's two useful lies in that title. The first one is there's no path. And there's no self. So do what you will with that, Mystic's Path of Self-Knowledge. But because that's kind of the unrevealed thing that I hope at the time I was writing the book, I was really hoping to take people on that reflection on what truly is the self for themselves. And I have to say that's where my path, if we want to call it that, took me. And it's not really that there isn't a self, but the self that I saw is part of this illusion that we call reality, but is also not an illusion because it's reality, So I think whatever is written in that book, or whatever is part of my own spiritual functioning and basis for functioning, it doesn't come in opposition to what you said. But I can clearly tell that if I heard what you just said, maybe, I don't know, 20 years ago, in many ways, it would have resonated a bit more. But over time, and not because over time I realized how wrong it was. That's not what I mean. What I mean is it was never enough for me, you know. Because even the being one with the universe experiences, even if over the years I've learned to create them within me instantly. I can't do it to others. To be perfectly honest, I don't feel like I want to create it in others. I want them to create it, and them to create it and them in themselves, you know. But all of this I know a lot of, because I have a background, a kind of a small background in Zen, in the Zen tradition, because I did practice Zazen for some years, and that's my starting point when I was 14. You know, just finding that Zen book of koans and just things that would fuck my mind up forever, which was a great thing, actually. So yeah, I would never be satisfied with the experiences, because I wasn't really able to use them in a practical way. So for me, it wasn't really important, and I had to. Actually, you know what? I think maybe it's just my personality and my vehicle, how I'm made, how the I is made. You know, I used to do pottery also, and I had a very great teacher, very wise person actually, and you know, he would show me how to do something, and then I'd have an idea and I would like to do that, and I'd ask him like, how do I do that? And like, for sure I'm gonna try the opposite of what he's saying, you know, just to, because I have to learn, I have to test it out. That's how I'm built, you know. I have to test it out. If it ends up that, and usually, well, almost all the time, he was right. Like he's had 40 years of experience, but the difference is now I've tried it. It's not just his word. I know in my hands that if I try to make a big pot or a big jar with a wall like three, like an eighth of an inch thick, most likely it's not going to work. It's going to crumble under its own weight, you know. But I had to try it, and because I wasn't satisfied with just what he said. I have the feeling in my fingers when the clay is getting too thin, and I can feel it kind of resting on my fingers rather than standing by itself, you know. So that's completely different. So that's why, in many ways, yeah, I'm always, as I said at the beginning of this conversation, I don't know if I would qualify myself, call myself a teacher, because I don't want to teach. I don't want to teach. I want to exchange. I want to throw ideas out there. I don't want. I prefer if people don't have grandiose ideas about me. Like, am I enlightened? You know, who gives a shit? You know, like, are you like, what does it change? And there are a bunch of people who were apparently enlightened, and they ended up doing really bad things. You know, really destructive things. You know, so what does it matter? Who cares? You know, so that's the in I act with other people as I act with myself, as in I always ask questions, and settling on an answer for me has never been a good idea. Always usually puts me in just more suffering and more pain, which felt useless at the time. And so that's why in my book, I just suggest ideas and ask people to consider them, you know. But there's even some times when it's brutal, you know, like because you know, I feel it would be so easy sometimes for me to just say the things that people like to hear, you know, and I know I'm gonna get them, you know. Why? Because I fell for it in the past, and I recognize the traps, if you want to call it like that, now, and I see people fall into them all the time. And most importantly, those traps usually they work because they do hold a certain amount of truth. There is something true in there, but it's usually not that simple. But if you stop and you leave that part out, it's not that simple. People will bite, you know, and they want to know more, and they want you to tell more, you know. So, yeah, you know, I think it's sometimes, it's not even tempting, but, you know, I know that my life would be much easier on a material level, or at least on a financial level, if I shared some of my experiences and claim things that I've understood because of them, and if I claim to know what reality is. And personally, I feel like I have a better grasp on how this thing works out there, you know. I'm surely, I can't say that I'm living in a 24-hour ecstasy state. But my life I feel more alive than I ever felt. And I feel a responsibility to engage with this conversation, you know, of how I got there. But to me, it's not about, and maybe I don't think I'm closed-minded. It's just I know how I tend to. Sorry, after a little while, or almost 2 hours in, my English starts to fade away after a while. So I'm looking for the words a bit more. And now I kind of lost my train of thought. But anyways, my point is, that's how. Oh yeah, I kind of remember now. So the way that I'm built, I think it's important that there's people building on a tradition for thousands of years, like in Taoism and Buddhism and even mystic Christianity and Sufism and all these things. It's super important. If I had the wallet of the world, I would spend money in that. I would want people to keep searching, you know. But for me, just as it wasn't really important that my pottery teacher had 40 years experience for me to try to do what he was precisely telling me it's not going to work, you know. To me, in many ways, and I really hope you won't feel offended in any ways, like by what I'm saying, and I'm saying that to my friend too. I don't care. Functionally, pragmatically, in my life, it doesn't change a thing that Taoism is thousands of years old, you know. I think it's really cool. I think it's really important. But in the way that I'm built, and I'm sharing this idea because I know other people are built like that. And I think this formless thing that I'm trying to communicate is not often found out there because it's so hard to keep it formless. It's its formlessness that keeps the essence in the message, you know. So that's why I put it out there, not as in opposition to traditions, and of course not. Actually, most of the time, I just realized things that people have realized thousands of years ago. So, you know, but I think it's I feel a kind of duty in a way to put the information and the questions out there in the way that I do, because I, for one, wasn't fulfilled with the wisdom of, you know, thousands of sages over thousands of years, you know. And it for now it seems like to come to term with that for myself it was a good thing, you know. I was talking about discipline earlier. To really okay, I had a problem with that because I was looking around me, and especially some of my friends who are really, really disciplined. My Taoist friend, you know, like has a family and had at one point he had a business that like he would open really early and close really late, but still woke up at 4:30 to do his practice before doing the 12-hour workday, you know. And I was looking at that, and some other people, like some people who were very disciplined in their studies, and they're much younger than I am, and they have the house, and they have the diplomas, and they have this life that is generally referred to as a mature life, you know. And I would compare myself with them and would basically hate myself, you know, because I felt like such a failure until
You're talking about social media? No, it's good.
Not really. No. Well, it's a good point, though.
That's what it does, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's. I'm not really influenced that much. Maybe a little. I don't know. And I wasn't in the past, but it's good that you pointed out, because I know that's true for a lot of people. That's where we compare ourselves, you know. But again, this attitude of questioning everything, to me, was important in considering that. So after after a while, after suffering, after hating myself, and just waking up every day in that feeling, I'm like, okay, I gotta do something about that. Obviously, it doesn't. I can't do what they do. I've tried. I've tried so many times, and with always the same result. So what does it mean? What does success mean for me? And then so I questioned it, like, as much as I could. I would leave out what my parents thought of what success is, what what society think, what is supposed to be success for a male person, also for a man. So leave all that out. Just me with myself right now. What does that mean, success? And then the answer for me was, well, it's success is just striving for meaning, for having meaning in what I experience, and to be as present and considerate as I can in whatever I'm doing, whatever if it's making food or taking out the garbage or meditating or writing or whatever. This presence, that's success for me. I don't care if I'm homeless in a way, as I do care. I wouldn't like that. I don't think I'd like that, but if it happened, I know that my mindset would always be on that. And looking at it like that, I'm like, shit, I'm pretty successful, because that's how I've lived my whole life. Like, just everything's important. Just start with that thought, like, this day is important, and it requires my attention, and this life, So to bring it back to the book and what I was saying about asking the questions, is there's no one could have done that for me. I guess if I had a good spiritual teacher, the person would be able to maybe to help me direct me towards the right questions, but other than that, if I don't take seriously those questions, even if the teacher puts out the right questions, if I don't take it seriously, I'm not going to learn anything, So I understand that I come from a strange standpoint, strange angle on spirituality, because people put a lot of importance in the crazy crazy experiences, the ecstasy of but it's just that there's probably other people out there like me for whom it didn't do it, But now, like, that's the weird thing. Like when I say that the fact that you and I are talking right now, and that there's a microphone in front of me and some plants and stuff, that's that's so miraculous, Like, I can't explain it, and it's something I feel. I have chills right now just saying that, So that's the more miraculous than the time I've met that entity, or the crazy mind-blowing synchronicities I've experienced, and awakening experiences. I can, I can talk about them. I can recount them, put them in a book for sure, and those are precious moments, and those were moments of inflection, But I had to be honest with myself. They weren't more important. They're cool. They're fun. Sometimes they're not fun. Sometimes they drive you mad after a while, because it's a switch. But when you really are able to put that focal point of consciousness that we truly are, and put that focal point outside of space-time, to look at those events independently of this linear thing that we call time, there isn't one moment that's more important. The curves in the road are, or the jumps, the very exciting parts of the road are not necessarily more important than the straight, longitudinal, tedious parts, I don't know. Does it make sense? I don't know.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
That's what yeah.
There's no right
Sorry.
or wrong way up the mountain. I mean, that's just the reality of it all. And whatever is important to you is your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. And that just, for someone who's not prepared to realize that, is the most valuable thing, which is the present moment. And that depends on where you're at your level of consciousness, whether that's relevant to you now or maybe 10 years from now. It's all perception. And
Yeah.
there is no right or wrong way to perceive things, unless you're around an authoritarian that wants to tell you how to think. Latsu always reminds me, no one tells you what to think, do, or say, ever. And so there's a lot of understanding that comes with that, and that a lot of the things in the way you frame things are very much, a Taoist way. The way to walk is not the way. So if you're sitting there and you're processing something, and I want to understand it more, it's because it's not as it seems. So there's a validation there that can correlate itself with a Taoist method, yet it's not full. You talk about I'm formless. That's within the Taoist teachings, within the incantations. Tao is formless. It goes where water goes, where no man can ever go. It's now. It's everything. It's all things. It's all things and nothing at the same time. Oh, it's like, hang on a second, what? And what does that mean? It doesn't have to mean anything, or it can mean absolutely everything. And then it's like, oh my goodness, we're just like, my mind is melting. You know what I'm saying? But that's really, the fundamental exploration is realizing that there is no right or wrong, except all things as is. And that's kind of like where you get all, giddy and excited and vibrant because we're talking, because this is this present moment. There's nothing more exciting. I literally, 30 years later, I still wake up every day as it's the first day I discovered Latsu, the first day I ever witnessed the healing, the first day I ever laid eyes on my wife, the first day I ever laid eyes on my children. It's as if it's the first day. And that's the excitement of this present moment. And that's the most powerful thing. I think we both agree on that. That's like everything. I always tell people, it's like if I had nothing but my family, and I have everything. I have the Tao. I have my family, the shirt on my back. That's it. I'm content. I'm whole. I am all things, this present moment.
Yeah. I guess that's where I have a hard time wishing for things to happen to other people. I'm not that important, But
Well, if you go on, if you ever get around to you more curious about that, I can teach you the magic to actually make that happen. But hey, look, it's just another way to look up and down the mountain. It's another way to look at reality. It just is like, holy shit, this stuff works. This is Harry Potter trading 101. Yeah, it does. Because I mean, a lot of people will come with this idea that if you do something, you must be mindful of the implications, that you can't ask from the universe without thinking about positive things about other people. Now, again, the universe doesn't have a moral compass. If you understand that or accept as from this perspective of how I perceive reality, if I was to share with someone, everything is abundant, timeless, endless, limitless, infinite. If that is true, as above, as below, as within, as outside, then you're unlimited in every aspect. There is that. And I mean, that's if you believe it. Again, your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. And then we're just like...
But it's interesting because, like, even that, like, on the subject of manifestation, which is something that's very big, for sure, and very important for a lot of people. Like, it's very funny because, well, I've been exposed to this idea of that we create the what they call the law of attraction, or I've been exposed to that pretty early in my life. And at the time, I remember my mom was really into positive thinking. It was kind of the same thing. Like, you imagine thing, you focus on one thing that you really, really want, and you act as if it already is real and it's going to manifest. It's like, okay, cool. But the way that I'm built, I would, and that remained true for so long in my life, when I was like experimenting with positive thinking when I was a teenager, early adulthood, with the law of attraction, and all of that stuff. And later in life, I got interested in magic and chaos magic, and I wasn't really into the ceremonial magic, but I got really curious, and every time the same thing would happen to me is, how do I choose what I want? I don't know what I want. I can't settle on one thing. And there's this, I could think of one thing that I'm like, yeah, I guess money would be cool, But then I'm like, yeah, but what am I gonna do with that money? I have food. I don't know. I don't exactly. And I know a lot of people are going to hear that and are going to say, well, I know what I'd do with money, So for a lot of people, it's self-evident. They don't have to think about that. But for me, if I had to really believe in those things in order to make them happen, I would have to really believe them. So I would have to find the thing that I can put all my intention in, and charge those words or that sigil to manifest the thing. But I never could, I was never able to choose anything. So I was wondering, I wondered why. And like, I took that question to its end, I believe, because what do I want? Okay, well, why do I want it? What do I think those are on a basic level. What do I think is going to happen if I have those things, if I manifest them, or a situation, if I'm like, how happier do I think I'm going to be if this happens, or whatever, so what emotions am I gonna feel, but then it's like, okay, well, on a deeper level, why do I prefer these things rather than other things? And especially if I look back on my life, I'm like, well, there were things that I've been through that I really didn't want. But dude, those things are so important to me. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm not gonna ask for crap that I that I would hate to do, or like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna focus all my energy into going bankrupt. Because that's gonna teach me a lot. No one does that. I wasn't about to do that either. So,
All that stuff is
but
so easy to acquire. It's like you'd never believe you're a manifester, just your emotional state. So when you're depressed, anxious, fearful, angry, you don't identify as that as a manifestation, yet it is still your
yeah,
connection with all things that is materializing your reality. It's only when you perceive it as something that is of intrinsic sort of like a material worth that all of a sudden, oh, that's manifestation.
yeah.
Yeah.
But well, and like I was never satisfied with anything. So after a while, again, I realized, okay, well, let's try something else then. So we're gonna question, what is the nature of this I that wants things? You know, how do, like, if I think of, okay, like if I think. I have a hard time actually. Sometimes I think if I was a millionaire, I have no idea what I'd do with that much money. But let's pretend for 1 second. If I had $5,000 tomorrow, I probably would get like a cooler guitar. Okay. But like, where does that come from? Where does that and that's kind of a bad example because it's a simple material thing. I guess at one point in my life I would have wanted to manifest like a very deep connection with someone. It was really important for me to meet a mate, I guess, whom I would share things very deeply, and so maybe that's something but like, there's so much in that desire that reveals us what the self wants, and how it works. So what I hear when I hear myself say I want the mate is I want connection, and so where does this desire for connection come from? Oh, well, it's this I that feels like it has to connect, to be kept alive, because if I don't have this connection, and then you can go into all the psychological stuff if you want. Okay, that need comes from my mom or from my dad, or for the lack of connection I've had in school, because I was always the weirdo, and even to my teachers I was always the weirdo. So like, right, all right, but still, the whatever it comes from, it's there now. So what is this need? So I'm giving an example here I'm trying to express how, for me, this notion of manifestation actually over time stopped making sense, and now I'm still interested in magic. I follow podcasts, and I interview magicians on
When
my show.
you're saying magic, like real magic or illusion?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I should I should be more precise. I mean, the real magic, not the prestidigitation. I mean, yeah. People, I forget sometimes that it can be confusing. But yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
No, I
I mean,
pursue a lot
people
of.
nowadays like they're talking about David Copperfield or
I
whoever, like
wouldn't even go as low as that. I'd say David Blaine. But David
David
Blaine
Blaine. Yeah, that's
a little bit more of an expression of the blurring of the lines. So
hmm hmm
when you get to someone into a certain state, for example, for me, my 6 kids, 5 of them, I've taught them how to hypnotize people, how to get into states of conscious, remote viewing, healing, physical healing, using attention, intention. These are all really powerful tools, and they give you a better grounding of reality, in my opinion, from a parent. It helps people. It helps my children understand the nature of reality from their perspective. But when you
yeah.
can, when we do like street, we call street magic. Go down to the strip. I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada. Go down to the strip, and we just walk up to people and go, "Would you like to experience bliss and complete like ecstasy?" And they're like, "Yes." And their friends are like standing there, like recording as if it's like a YouTube thing. And then I go sleep, and they go, "What the?" And their friend is standing there, and they're passed out cold, standing up. What happened? This guy walks up to me, and now my friend is passed out. He's asleep, not conscious, standing up. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm going to erase your name. I'm going to take your wallet and keys, and then I'm going to be Justin Bieber when you wake up. And their friends are like, oh. And then when they wake up, I'm like, hey, I've got the wallet and keys in my hand. I'm like, hey, so what's going on? And they're like, so when are we starting? And their friends are like, ooh, what? And they're videotaping this. And, they're like, when are we starting? We've already started. Well, no, we haven't. No, we haven't. And I'm like, are you missing something? And I'm doing this in front of them. And they're like, yeah, where are my wallet and keys? I'm like, I have no idea. Where would they be? And they're standing there, and they're straight up sober. Their friends are videotaping this, and then they take a second, and then of course you just do cues. So I'll just click my fingers. The next minute they'll look at me and go, "Oh, it's Justin Bieber. How do I look?" What? And like I look like Justin Bieber. And then as the same second, boom, awake and remember everything. Holy crap! And their friends are like, "Wow, this is so unreal." Now we can go into layers of reverse hallucination, states of psychosis, all this kind of stuff. It's really just, in my opinion, consciousness. So you're tapping into a state of awareness, and you can access it at any time. That's just a sort of a mastered skill that anyone can acquire. The more you focus your attention on, the faster you can get at it. I don't when I talk about channeling Latsu and all these other things, that's got nothing to do with hypnosis. This is on another plane, another frequency, another state of consciousness that is in a whole nother world. But I guess more to contributing to what you're saying, it's like, okay, well, hey, you can literally create or find a solution or not find a solution in a fraction of a second. And the satisfaction of that is up to as the old expression, the eyes, it's in the eyes of the beholder. And so I think very clearly from your own admission, it's like your curiosity and discovery is the true catalyst of what satisfies you in this human experience that you're having, or not. I mean, it's like this cycle of right now. And like, if we were looking from an NLP perspective or just linguistics, period, when you use that word why, I always tell people, you want to become psychic? Listen to people's linguistics. And they're like, really? All you do is listen to what comes out of their mouth. What they're processing in an unconscious level is being presented to you in a dialogue of how that person frames the words that describe their experience. And so why is a great word because it keeps you in the now, but it also keeps you asking the same question over and over again, never giving yourself a satisfied answer. It's just part of the construct of that linguistic programming, which is why.
Well,
And there's nothing wrong with it. You just
No,
stay.
but the thing is, that's the part that maybe I'm failing to express, and maybe I'm refraining to express because I prefer people to come to that conclusion by themselves or whatever. But if I don't mean using necessarily the why in a recurrent matter as a manner, sorry, as much as in an expansive matter. And after a while, there isn't any why left, you know. There isn't any there isn't. So when I was talking about manifestation and again, like always putting a why, another layer of why, or a deeper layer of understanding, why am I desiring what I'm desiring right now, it did eventually rid me of a lot of those desires that I noticed were just automatic. You know, as you say, well, it's not you who said it, but I forget who said it. Through you, your thoughts are not yours. You know, so my thought that I want to manifest something is not mine either. So why should I give it any importance? You know, that's a mind fuck. You know.
Well, it can't be. It can't.
I mean,
it can absolutely be. No question.
But the thing, well, I can only speak for myself. Like for me, yeah, basically this pushing this why idea, especially when it comes to questioning manifestation, put me eventually in a space where I kind of got rid of those desires, and also delivered me from extremely painful procrastination. I was, because I have a non-dualistic mindset through experience. I've come to that, you know. And I often call myself a recovering non-dualist because of those deep non-dualistic experiences, if I want to call them that, although it sounds weird. After a while, that infinite potential that I saw, that I was basically built from, you know, and that I was able to manifest from and destroy from, or whatever, it is so formless that I could not be productive or I couldn't do anything in life. For many years, it drove me to a form of nihilism, you know, to a form of latent, well, who cares, you know? Whatever I do is good and bad at the same time. There's and at the same time is a pretty bad way to call it, because whenever you take the time out of anything, it becomes equally good or bad, you know. So I couldn't act from that non-dualistic standpoint, and that's why I needed to bring it back to to duality, you know. And so I found myself eventually unable to decide and to decide things and manifest things and be productive on the basis of a dualistic mindset. It was too late for me. I had experienced the whole infinite thing. That was realer than real. So that's my basis for action. So how do I do things now? So that's when I come back to earth. You know, the chop wood, carry water thing. And then you just come back and you chop wood and you carry water. But now I feel like I'm motivated by like I guess some people would call it the Tao, you know? When I get up and I I feel like I want to do things, but I feel like I want to do things just like the tree outside wants to grow. So the tree outside is not like, yeah, I'm gonna get rich, you know. Screw those bastards. I don't care if they don't get any. I'm gonna get it, you know. Uh, the tree's growing. It's not asking questions. And for me, the vegetation has been my greatest teacher. By the way, I guess I could put it that way. And you know, leaves bloom, roses bloom because it's spring here. I don't know how it is where you are, but right now we're seeing like huge buds in the trees, like they're about to burst, you know. And then they sleep in winter, and because we in Montreal we have crazy, like it's gonna be like very very hot in a few months, and then after that it's gonna be super cold, you know. So because I've experienced this infinity and I've come back to, I hate that I'm speaking like an enlightened dude, but that's what I experienced. So fuck it. I My life is more kind of like a tree now, as in I get up in the morning. I don't really think about what I want to manifest, or it's just self-evident, you know, like and also I'm happy to have things that I can't control, you know, like talking to you right now. I don't know if you're a big jerk who's going to be rude or whatever, or, you know, so I put myself in that flow also of other people and what they have to bring and what they have to communicate and what they want to, from the deepest to this most simplest things, you know. And so, yeah, I don't really know what I would choose to manifest. I prefer learning that on the spot, you know. And because of that, just to close with, I'm always active, you know. I'm always active. There's a whole, you know, like I'm unrecognizable from the Dominic of 4 years or even 3 years past, you know. Just I guess because I felt like I tapped into that flow of stopping to, you know, of asking why, but the why thing is now it's kind of a game. It's just fun, you know. It's not as obsessive as it was, you know. It used to be to deliver me from tremendous pain, you know, and but now it's just fun. It's just part of the fun.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, basically, I feel like we're in the same sort of vicinity of realization, and the present moment. I had a friend of the channel. This guy spent most of his life pursuing, superhuman cultivators, like the stuff I teach for internal alchemy, separating electric from magnetic, being able to charge people with electric shocks and all this kind of crazy stuff. It's cool. You get to heal people. You witness physical healings. This is the stuff that motivates me throughout my whole reality. Is I witness a physical healing, whether it's flesh resorting back from gangrenous to original state, whether it's bones fusing before my very eyes, cuts sealing in front of my. I've seen it all. I've seen it all. Been watching it for years, and it's really profound. It's like the first time I've seen it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
he came to a realization. Then there's a system, right? The Taoists have a system. The one thing that most of the stuff that's out there that's been exposed as Taoist practices are absolutely false. They're not. They're not the real deal. And I go, oh, everyone's going to go, oh yeah, you're the only one with the real deal. Listen, I have the basis of the stuff that was taught to me by the monasteries and the temples that I was ordained in, and then there's real deal stuff, and even that is being skewed and distorted by realm of man stuff. Now, you want things to bear fruit that are realized by your very experience, and you want to be able to validate them. Now, for me, a validation is transmuting something in this 3D reality, whether it's a manifestation, magic, healing, in all aspects of the word, whether it's spiritual, mental, emotional, physical. But you want to sit with your reality, and then you can validate it with others around you that are like, this is not a figment of your imagination. I just witnessed this. I experienced this. Holy shit. Then kind of get to that point where he came to his own discovery. He came across some guru that was doing supernatural things, levitating, stopping his heart, charging people, all that stuff. And he would notice the guy's like 80 years old. He's looking around. He's got all these concubines. It's like, a harem of women everywhere. Now, one of the big things within the biggest misdirection of Taoist alchemy is you must abstain from any sort of like sexual activity, release, all this kind of like, I'm just going to say it very clearly, nonsense. Because if you are the universe, this is a first red flag, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies, if you go and you immerse yourself into something, if you understand that you really are the universe, if this is truly something that's not conceptual, it's realized by you, why would someone give you the idea that this physical vehicle that is the universe would have any limitation whatsoever? Yes, it has a date of expiration because you've been sold on the idea that that's the truth. DNA in of itself and an epigenetic model of understanding the genome, if you want to get science-based about it, which is the language that's only been around a couple of 100 years, but yeah, let's translate that into reality. There's really no level or limit. You can lengthen or shorten your telomeres as much as you want, and that is evident based by an environment. This is what the epigenetic model is in understanding. So, I mean, we could go down the rabbit hole, but in essence, he came to this realization. So there's this whole alchemical process. You abstain from having sex and you build up the sexual energy. You create this secret secretion that is released within and this is an alchemical process. I show you how to release it and then replicate it. You want to have an orgasm for the next 50 years? I'll show you how to do it. And it feels damn good. And, right now I'm sitting here talking to you, but I'm operating in multi-dimensions. I'm not delusional. I'm not having a psychotic episode. I'm experiencing the universe and it's visceral. So my physical body is experienced moving through constellations, moving through planets, and I feel it from head to toe as a visceral experience from an energetic aspect. Now, I'm completely conscious, eyes open, not sitting in the lotus position, lighting 3 incense, calling kumbaya, bringing in my spirit guides, creating a spiritual awakening. But what I wanted to refer to the audience to is this friend of mine, David, came to this realization. So he's got this guy, it's like he's doing all this crazy healing. And it's like, wow, this is amazing. This guy's doing all this stuff. He's levitating. He's stopping his heart. He's healing people. He's doing this and that. And then he goes, but you got all these concubines. Like, I've been abstained from sex for the last 5 years. And the guy's like, okay, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I was having sex one day, and I was in front of a tonka of Shiva. And I looked at Shiva and I said, just as I was climaxing, I said, if you embody me with all the superpowers that are necessary for me to heal and do all the things, I will never, ever lose sight of how valuable and how powerful you are. And I will have you use this physical body as a vehicle to transmute this in 3D reality. And as he climaxed, he describes it as this incredible supernatural bolt of lightning that went through his whole physical body, filled up his energy channels, and he was realized, and he's had the superpowers ever since. He has sex like 5 times a day. Now, what David realized, and I knew this from day one when I channeled Lao-Tzu 30 years ago, even though I was on the path of being a Taoist priest ordained and whatnot, when I channeled Lao-Tzu's first instant dialogue with me was, nothing is as it seems. And geez, let me see the first verse of the Tao Te Ching in summary. The way to walk is not the way. The name that's named is not the name. And so when you are embodying something and you are looking at it as an absolute, that's the first misdirection, in my opinion, from your own discovery or realization that it's never as it seems. And as you said, you're through your own discovery. No matter how, I don't care if you've got 1,000 years of experience. If you tell me I can't do this, I'm going to try it. And so there's a level of like, hey, oh wow, this is really cool. Grandpa told me I could save like 100 years of my life if I just listen to him and I follow his path instead of experiencing it. This is why they call it experiential. You experience it, you validate it for your truth. And guess what? David and I had this consensus of, and this is the realization: all the cultivating in the world, all the magic, all the spiritual enlightenment, all the travels, all the this, all that. And I've trained under many people. I train people. I give them the tools to create this magic manifestation healing. All of this comes down to one thing: your truth is the only truth you need to believe. And when you believe that, whatever it is, and this is where you kind of like, and how do you measure something like that? Your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. It comes down to this: you look at megalomaniacs and they go, well, is God, how could God be so heinous? Look at the heinous crimes throughout humanity. Look at time, look at what's done. The reality is if you look at any of these events in a human timeline, the reason that they stopped and the megalomaniac fell from his position of power, or that person or whoever it is, was they stopped believing in their bullshit, and they were then subject to duality. You understand what I'm saying? So it really comes right down to this is my observation, and that was the consensus of many people that I have friends of major cultivational practice across all different religions, belief systems, awakenings, all this kind of stuff. Whatever you believe is the only thing you need to be concerned with, but it must be a validation of that. And how do you do that? It's through your experience. And so this is the summation of 30 years of consciously cultivating mastering skills, where people travel around the world to train with me to zap people with electric shocks and manifest stuff and do all this crazy stuff. Still down to the simplicity of this: what do you believe in? And your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. Now, that's something that I've come to the conclusion of. Many people I know have come to the conclusion of. And it all resonates because it's a feeling. This is another thing I like to give people the opportunity to embody. If you're thinking, you're not knowing. If you're knowing, you're feeling. And I would say, from an observation of your own expression of your own journey, that there's some sort of like potential validity of what I speak of to possibly the model that you're experiencing. When you're feeling it, it's your knowing. And, whether you know nothing, or you know everything, it's like Jade Emperor actually has this one that really, you're going to love this. He always goes, you accept you know nothing, you know everything. And I'm like, oh, blah, blah. Because, it really comes down to that, right? It's like all this soul searching, all this stuff. But again, the journey that you and I are on may not be John Smith, who just got off work and smells like rotten McDonald's burgers and they've been frying fries for the last 19 hours. And they decided to put this podcast on, and they're listening to it going, mind blown. And now I'm on an old expression, I'm off to the races. The seed has been planted. This conversation has created a journey, right? A path. What do you call the path? The way. What is the way? The Tao. And your path is the only path. Your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. And then that's even if you identify as yourself or nothing or something or all things. And then it comes down to, what the fuck does it matter? It doesn't matter. But it's all part of a really bigger picture. And you sort of start somewhere, whether it's, someone who's definitely personality, character flawed, like Steve Jobs, who has an epiphany in his transition and goes, oh my goodness, it was much brighter than I thought it was. Something to that nature. Wherever he's going in his next life, and we could go down that path. I transition people for a living. I do that, all that kind of crazy stuff. I do, it's all part of your perception. That's it. And again, it's sort of like, hang on, that's too simplistic. And from Dominic's perspective, I just got started. I love asking the question why, and my exploration is the very thing that excites me. that gives me, evokes the visceral experience of what's next. What's next and why not? And the question is why and why not? And there's no right or wrong answer. It's like it's what you are, what is happening right now for you is the only thing that's important. It's kind of like I think we've done a really good job of melting people's minds in understanding what is the true nature of reality. The true nature of reality is however you perceive it. But my dear friend was like, and so this guy tells me he does nothing but has sex with young, women all day long, and has more juice and more superpowers than some person that he witnessed spent, sacrificed their existence to a monastic, journey that left them in the lotus position for 30 years, singing Kumbaya and chanting for something greater, and they didn't realize anything. And I've had plenty of students like that that have gone to monasteries around the world to look for some answer or some realization, and they've got nothing but a broken back and discontent and sadness and emptiness. Whereas then they come to me and they're like, holy moly, this is Harry Potter wizard school. Absolutely. Whatever you want. You were looking for an answer. The universe gave it to you, and I happened to be on your doorstep, or you turned up on mine. But this is part of the journey of what's valuable to you. And I mean, this is something that David sort of said, well, what's valuable to you? Something or nothing. But then you would have to go back to Dominic's, giving us something to ponder over, which is value means that you have an identity, that you are something. So hang on a second, you're now identifying with the idea that you are the person that is looking back at you in the mirror, and that would then bring you to this idea that you have a value system that makes you separate from all things. And so, oh my goodness, this is like wrestling an alligator, which I love. I love it. I mean, this really, people will walk away from this, and we've been, I think, in conversation that's so amazing. Yet it seemed like 5 minutes, but it's been 2 hours and 50 minutes, because that's what happens when, in my opinion, you avoid a space-time. This is this is magic. This is magic. This is true magic, what I call true magic, because it just disappears. And it's effortless. It's effortless.
Yeah. Actually, you're bringing something that maybe we can even end on this. I don't know, because it's a good thing to remember, and because of course we're all different, so people are going to hear this conversation. Some of them are going to be, whoa, that's wild. Some of them are going to be, those two guys, fuck it, they're not listening, and there's other people who might, because I've often experienced that, like in the depth of my depression and pain in the past, I would have been kind of discouraged, like it's so complicated, so hard, like I'm never gonna get all that, it's hard to live by, it's too complicated. But I think to that person who would feel like that right now, or who often feels like that as I used to, or I'm gonna knock on wood, because I don't know, maybe one day I'm gonna feel like that again. It's something I realized when writing my book. I was in a especially connected moment. It was a moment that had this whole aura of sacredness, how we could call it that. And again, I was reminded of the trees that grow, and I thought of this spiritual development and this mind expansion that we're looking for, and sometimes we have what we consider a success. Sometimes we experience things that we feel like is a failure, whether it's going to a weekend retreat somewhere or spending 40 years in the Himalayas. The thing is, this growth, it's built into us, you know. So I wish I could find the right words to, like, kind of not reassure, but give maybe hope to people who might go through all this and maybe experience what they call sometimes the dark night of the soul, or, you know, like all the weight of all this realization, and the not having anything to grab onto anymore because your reality's been shaken, you know. And also for people who think they're grabbing at the right thing, or they consider like, this is good for me to do, or this is wrong. There's just, actually, it is built into us to evolve consciously. And so for me, and I think you expressed that too, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but the healing and the miraculous things, or the simple, I'm just contemplating life and I'm drinking my tea in nature or whatever, all of this is an expression of your personal growth. And I think it's important when you say your inner not compass, you said something, you know, when you really feel like you're vibrating inside, like it feels like it's calling you to experience it. I would agree. Listen to that, because it's what your impulse to grow and expand, just like a tree expands, like over time, the roots, they reach out, you know, for more and more more and more sunlight, more and more nutrients in the soil, and, you know, it's happening whether you decide on whatever, it's going to happen. That's the weird thing. Even if we suffer, it's pushing by itself, even though we want to rush it sometimes a bit more, or if we're discouraged, we want to stop or whatever. I think going for the if you feel an impulse to heal people and do remote viewing, which are all things that I'm really interested in, by the way.
Well,
if you feel the impulse, do that.
What you're saying, my friend. I'm just saying.
I'm sorry?
I said the universe is hearing what you're saying. We didn't just need, it was just a coincidence. But hey.
Yeah, it's all happening, whether like this expansion, whether we like it or not. And sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's mind-blowing. But it's happening, whether, just like the trees grow, you know.
I would say, in closing myself, I attribute my consciousness and awakening and remembering who I am, you know, reunited, and it feels so good. That moment really came down to the simplicity of being childlike in my nature and accepting everything at face value, and accepting everything at face value. That's it. And so that was sort of like my catalyst in how I came to that realization. And I think in so many ways, you and I have expanded on different levels of consciousness and viewpoints, perceptions of reality, but still we come back to returning to one thing, this present moment.
Yeah.
And that is kind of like a consensus between the two of us, I think we could agree on. And I don't think fundamentally we're very far off each other in the way that we see things. I think it's just a different, you say tomato, I say tomato, and it all ends up in the same place, which is your truth is the only truth you need to be concerned with. And it kind of gets to a really beautiful conversation like the one you and I had today, where, hey, this is going to be really, really powerful for one person, a million people. I don't care. I'm just contributing to the conscious collective. And my contribution is having profound conversations with incredible beings like yourself that evoke something within somebody. And that's really the purpose of this podcast for me, is for someone to just hear something and go, oh, that's it. That's what I needed. That's what that makes sense to me. And really, if that's all that I do, then I feel very complete. If that's the sum all and be all and extent of my reality in this lifetime, if that's how it's summarized, then I'm very, very complete and whole in this lifetime. And that's it for me. That's like biddy. That's all, folks. You ever see that? and it's like I would say in closing, because this has been so powerful, I'm going to ask you one question, and then let's see what the answer is. What is your definition of consciousness? And it's so funny because I've heard a million versions and there's never a wrong way. They just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. My definition of consciousness, it's not going to be one of the good answers.
Why is it not a good answer? I mean, again, you're showing your cards. It's like poker. You're showing me the cards. So it's like it's not going to be a good answer. It says who? It's in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't. It's just that I consider this notion for many things, and for many deep things, and I think like sometimes the answer to the deepest questions, and like what is consciousness, that's one of the deepest questions that we can ask, and often I'm wondering, maybe the best answer we could come up with is escaping us, because it's so evident and boring, So that's why maybe I'm thinking maybe people won't like it. So what is consciousness? Well, I'm gonna put just a little aside right now. I think when we use the term consciousness, sometimes we mix it up with awareness. So I'll start with that. I think awareness and consciousness are different things. Consciousness is a bit more fundamental, So what is consciousness? Well, I think consciousness is it's a bit of this and it's a bit of that.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
I think that's amazing. My definition is really simple. Realizing you have choices.
We could start for another 3 hours right now.
I think we could. Again, this has been amazing, Dominic. This has been amazing. Now,
I loved it too, son. Yeah, it was great.
I really, this is just what I live for. This is the stuff that excites me, is having incredible, profound conversations like the one we just had today. That satisfies me. I can go on that all day long. That's my food. That's my everything. And I wake up every day looking forward to this very moment. And so I would say in closing, I'm going to put all your social media under this podcast, and about a week or so after this goes to YouTube, it goes out on all 20 platforms. Now, I'm going to ask you, what is it that you will want to share? You have your book, Zinfaendel, right? Zinfaendel.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, do you offer any sort of like guidance? You're not a teacher. You said you're not a teacher, but perhaps maybe people are looking for something more insight. Are you sharing anything like programs, courses, anything like that that someone could pick up when they're coming to look for you in a social media setting?
Well, for now, the most of my activities are as I quickly mentioned, I also have a podcast. So when I put out the book, it was really hard to get invited on other people's podcasts because it's hard to be taken seriously when you're self-published and you're basically unknown. So I decided to start my own, so people can and have those discussions. That was what was most important to me. So sometimes there's solo episodes. The show is called Hopscotch Chronicles. Yeah, that thing you said, being childlike, this notion of play, Anyway, so I won't go into the deep meaning of that name, but Hopscotch Chronicles podcast. So there's mainly interviews now, but sometimes there's solo episodes too. And also I'm trying to get back to writing. So if people follow me on social medias, it's super easy to get all the news that are happening. So I'm going to start writing short articles also on, I've created a profile on medium.com, which is a great platform actually. If for people who are into all the philosophy, spirituality stuff, there's a lot of really cool writers on there. So something fun to explore. So people can look me up on there. And I'd like to. I've done some workshops in French in my area. I've done one which was a kind of a introspective, meditative experience with tea. As I said, I'm really into tea, so it was kind of a.
You see, you sure you're not a Taoist? I mean, tea rituals are one of the biggest things that we do. Tea, bag, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm really. That's one of my passions. Taking people on a quest towards themselves, through the experience of tea and music. So those are the kind of things that I'd like to be able to do also in the future. But for now, I'm concentrating on the podcast and the writing of shorter articles.
So I guess in closing, I want to really thank you for sharing your time with me today, my friend. I'm really grateful that I have a new friend, and I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. And I am your humble 7N Sifu, Taoist Master San Qing, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.